Hello, welcome back to Let's Play Jane's Fighters Anthology as we continue with the aircraft showcases. Now, this time I took the liberty of making one in the Pro Mission Creator, so let us go down. There it is. And this is not... Oh my god, whatever. Okay, so we're gonna load from here then, I guess. I don't know what's up with the single missions there. Down one. There we go. So you can see, I guess this, because I didn't include the map screen, but we will be flying the P-3C Orion today for today's showcase, and we will be hunting an Oscar-class submarine. I do not think... Yeah, the game unfortunately doesn't let you put weapons on the P-3, even though it can definitely take them. For this game, the only weapons would probably be Mavericks or Harpoons. But in real life, the P-3 would also carry torpedoes, depth charges, sonobuoys, the whole bit, so... Ooh, that's a unique engine sound, one that I wasn't expecting. Oh, what is... Okay, our zoom was messed up. So we're gonna start by turning on our radar. And we're gonna throttle it down a bit, and we're basically just gonna hit the deck here. And what we're gonna be doing is kind of simulating a P-3 executing a search pattern for a submarine, dropping sonobuoys and the like. So we are pretty close to the deck here. I want to get a little more up, but you can see there we are. Oh, okay. Yeah, so you can see there's a surface search radar on the bottom. That's that radome. I believe, I'm not 100% certain, but this is either another radar or it's like a housing for satellite communications and stuff. And you can see it's driven by 4 turboprops. And normally the sonobuoy dispensers, I believe, are towards the aft of the aircraft, so as to not interfere with the engines and such. And they don't really have it simulated well here, probably because of the lack of polygons. But ordinarily, you'd see a long boom coming out the rear, and that would be the magnetic anomaly detection sensor. Which is basically like, those, whatchamacallits, the, those magnetic sensors people get when they're treasure hunting. It's basically like a supersized version of that, except this one's designed to detect submarines, so. Oh, okay, that took over my aircraft in ways I did not like. So, unfortunately, I'm trying to get it to around 300 feet so we don't suffer as much of that ground effect turbulence, but I suppose that'll be good enough for now. I'll just have to keep a close eye on it. So, in August of 1957, the U.S. Navy called for proposals for replacement of the piston engine Lockheed P-2V Neptune, later redesignated as the P-2, and Martin TM-5 Marlin, later redesignated the P-5, with a more advanced aircraft to conduct maritime patrol and anti-submarine warfare. Modifying existing aircraft should save on costs and to allow rapid introduction into the fleet, so Lockheed suggested a military version of its L-188 Electra, then still in development and yet to fly. In April of 1958, Lockheed won the competition and was awarded an initial research and development contract in May. Lockheed modified the prototype YP-3V-1/YP-3A from the third Electra airframe. The first flight of the aircraft's aerodynamic prototype, originally designated YP-3V-1, took place on the 19th of August, 1958. While based on the same design philosophy as the Electra, the aircraft differed structurally. It had 7 feet less fuselage forward of the wings with an opening bomb bay, and the more pointed nose radome, a distinctive tail stinger for detection of submarines by magnetic anomaly detection, wing hardpoints, and other internal, external, and airframe production technique enhancements. Actually, if I... Okay. So it looks like we're maintaining course now, but I think it shut my engines off. There we go. Alright, that's a little better. The Orion has 4 Allison T56 turboprops, which give it a top speed of 411 knots, comparable to the fastest propeller fighters, or even to slow high bypass turbofan jets such as the Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II or the Lockheed S-3 Viking. Similar patrol aircraft include the Soviet Ilyushin IL-38, the French Breguet Atlantique, and the British jet-powered Hawker Siddeley Nimrod, based on the de Havilland Comet. The first production version, designated P-3V1, was launched on the 15th of April 1961. Initial squadron deliveries to Patrol Squadron 8 and Patrol Squadron 44 at Naval Air Station Paxton River, Maryland, began in August of 1962. On the 18th of September 1962, the U.S. military transitioned to a unified designation system for all services, with the aircraft being renamed the P-3 Orion. Paint schemes have changed from the early 1960s, with gloss seaplane gray and white to the mid-1960s through the early 1990s, and then gloss white and gray from the mid-1990s. The early 1960s had gloss seaplane gray and white. The mid-60s to the early 90s had gloss white and gray, and the mid-1990s had a flat finish, low visibility gray with fewer and smaller markings. In the early 2000s, the paint scheme changed to its current overall gloss gray finish with the original full-size color markings. However, large-size bureau numbers on the vertical stabilizer and squadron designations on the fuselage remain largely omitted. In 1963, the U.S. Navy's Bureau of Naval Weapons contracted UNIVAC Defense Systems Division Sperry Rand to engineer, build, and test a digital computer, which at the time was a device in its infancy, to interface with the many sensors in the newly developing display units of the P-3 Orion. Project A-NU was the engineering system, which, after several early trials, produced the engineering prototype, the CP-823/U UNIVAC 1830. Serial A1, A-NU Mod 3 computing system. UNIVAC delivered the CP-823/U to the Naval Air Development Center at Johnsville, Pennsylvania in 1965. This directly led to the production computers later equipped on the P-3C. 3 civilian Electras were lost in fatal accidents between February 1959 and March 1960. Following the third crash, the FAA restricted the maximum speed of Electras pending determination of the causes. After an extensive investigation, 2 of the crashes were identified as due to insufficiently strong engine mounts, unable to damp a whirling motion that could affect the outboard engines. When the oscillation was transmitted to the wings, a severe vertical vibration escalated, tearing off the wings. The company implemented a costly modification program labeled the Lockheed Electra Achievement Program, which strengthened the engine mounts and the wing structure supporting the mounts and replaced some wing skins with thicker material. At its own expense, Lockheed modified all surviving Electras of the 145 built at the time, the process taking 20 days for each aircraft. These changes were incorporated into subsequent aircraft as they were built. The Electra sales were limited as Lockheed's technical fix did not completely erase the aircraft's poor reputation in an era in which turboprop-powered aircraft were being replaced by faster jets. In military roles that valued fuel efficiency more than speed, the Orion remained in service for over 50 years after its 1962 introduction. Although surpassed in production longevity by the Lockheed C-130 Hercules, 734 P-3s were produced through 1990. Lockheed Martin opened a new P-3 wing production line in 2008 as part of its service life extension program for delivery in 2010. A complete SLEP replaces the outer wings, counter wing lower section, and horizontal stabilizers with newly built parts. In the 1990s, the U.S. Navy attempted to procure a successor aircraft to the P-3 and selected the improved P-7 over a naval-specific variant of the twin turbofan-powered Boeing 757, but this program was subsequently canceled. In a second program to select a replacement, the advanced Lockheed Martin Orion 21, another P-3 derived aircraft, lost out to the Boeing P-8 Poseidon, based on the Boeing 737, which entered service in 2013. The P-3 has an internal bomb bay under the front fuselage, which can house conventional Mark 50 torpedoes or Mark 46 torpedoes, and or special weapons. And by special, of course, we mean nuclear. Additional underwing stations or pylons can carry other armament configurations, including the AGM-84 Harpoon, AGM-84E Slam, AGM-84H/K Slam-ER, AGM-65 Maverick, 5-inch Zuni rockets, and various other sea mines, missiles, and gravity bombs. The aircraft also had the capability to carry the AGM-12 bullpup guided missile until that weapon was withdrawn from U.S., NATO, and Allied service. The P-3 is equipped with a MAD in the extended tail. This instrument is able to detect the magnetic anomaly of a submarine in the Earth's magnetic field. The limited range of this instrument requires the aircraft to be near the submarine at low altitude. Because of this, it is primarily used for pinpointing the location of a submarine immediately prior to a torpedo or depth bomb attack. Due to the sensitivity of the detector, electromagnetic noise can interfere with it, so the detector is placed in the P-3's fiberglass tail stinger, or MAD boom, far from other electronics and ferrous metals on the aircraft. The crew complement varies depending on the role being flown, variant being operated, and the country that is operating the type. In U.S. Navy service, the normal crew complement was 12 until it was reduced to its current complement of 11 in the early 2000s, when the in-flight ordnance man position was eliminated as a cost-saving measure, and the ordnance duties were assumed by the in-flight technician. Data for the U.S. Navy P-3C only. 3 officers manned the plane, including the patrol plane commander, patrol plane second pilot, and patrol plane third pilot. 2 naval flight officers, the patrol plane tactical coordinator and the patrol plane navigator and communicator. And the navigator position was on the P-3C only. The A and Bs had an NFO navigator and an enlisted airborne radio operator. The enlisted crew includes 2 enlisted aircrew flight engineers, 3 enlisted sensor operators, 1 for the radar magnetic anomaly detection electronic warfare suite, and 2 acoustic sensor operators. There is 1 enlisted in-flight technician and the aforementioned enlisted aviation ordnance man whose duties are now performed by the in-flight technician. The senior of either the patrol plane commander or the patrol plane tactical coordinator will be designated as the aircraft mission commander. Once on station, one engine is often shut down, usually the number 1 engine or the left outer engine, to conserve fuel and extend the time aloft and/or range when at low level. It is the primary candidate for loiter shutdown because it has no generator. Eliminating the exhaust from engine 1 also improves visibility from the aft observer station on the left side of the aircraft. On occasion, both outboard engines can be shut down, weight, weather, and fuel permitting. Long, deep-water, coastal, or border patrol missions can last over 10 hours and may include extra crew. The record time aloft for a P-3 is 21.5 hours. And that was undertaken by the Royal New Zealand Air Force's No. 5 Squadron in 1972. Developed during the Cold War, the P-3's primary mission was to localize Soviet Navy ballistic missile and fast attack submarines detected by undersea surveillance systems and eliminate them in the event of full-scale war. At its height, the U.S. Navy's P-3 community consisted of 24 active-duty fleet patrol squadrons home based at air stations in the states of Florida and Hawaii, as well as bases which formerly had P-3 operations in Maryland, Maine, and California. There are also 13 Naval Reserve Patrol Squadrons identical to their active-duty fleet counterparts, said Reserve Fleet Squadrons being based in Florida, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Michigan, Massachusetts, who was later relocated to Maine, Illinois, Tennessee, Louisiana, California, and Washington. Two fleet replacement squadrons, also called RAG squadrons from the historic Designation Replacement Air Group, were located in California and Florida. The since deactivated VP-31 in California provided P-3 training for the Pacific Fleet, while VP-30 in Florida performed the task for the Atlantic Fleet. These squadrons were also augmented by a test and evaluation squadron in Maryland, two additional test and evaluation units that were part of an Air Development Center in Pennsylvania, and a test center in California, an oceanographic development squadron in Maryland, and two active duty special projects units in Maine and Hawaii, the latter being slightly smaller than a typical squadron. Alright, we're actually moving fairly slow, all things considered. So, ideally, we'd be, just for the note, because I know where the submarine is, that's why I'm going up and then right. But ideally, I think you'd be using like a ladder search pattern where you up, down, and then cross, 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 cross. That's speculation, but that's typically what I use to lay down a graded something like something like Fleet Command or Command Modern Operations. In fiscal year 1995, the U.S. Navy planned to reduce active duty patrol squadrons from 16 to 13, 7 on the East Coast and 6 on the West. The patrol squadrons planned to survive were VPs 8, 10, 11, and 26 at NAS Brunswick, Maine, and VP 5, 16, and 45 at NAS Jacksonville, Florida. The Pacific squadrons that were to be retained were VP 1, 4, 9, and 47 at Barbers Point, Hawaii, and 40 and 46 at NAS Whidbey Island, Washington. Patrol Squadrons 17, 23, and 24 were to be disestablished, and remaining units were to operate 9 aircraft instead of 8, augmented by VP-30 and the 9 at the time USNR P-3 squadrons. Reconnaissance missions in international waters led to occasions where Soviet fighters would bump a P-3, either operated by the U.S. Navy or other operators, such as the Royal Norwegian Air Force. On the 1st of April 2001, a mid-air collision between the United States Navy EP-3E Ares II signals and surveillance aircraft and a People's Liberation Army Navy J-82 jet fighter interceptor resulted in an international dispute between the U.S. and the People's Republic of China. More than 40 P-3 variants have demonstrated the type's rugged reliability, commonly flying 12-hour plus missions 200 feet over water. Versions were developed for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration for research in hurricane hunting and hurricane wall busting, for the U.S. Customs Service, now the United States Customs and Border Protection, for drug interdiction and aerial surveillance mission with a rotodome adapted from the Grumman E-2 Hawkeye, or an AN APG-66 radar adapted from the General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon, and for NASA for research and development. The U.S. Navy currently remains the largest P-3 operator, currently distributed between a single fleet replacement patrol squadron in Florida, 12 active-duty patrol squadrons distributed between bases in Florida, Washington, and Hawaii, 2 Navy Reserve patrol squadrons in Florida and Washington, 1 active-duty special projects patrol squadron in Hawaii, and 2 active-duty test and evaluation squadrons. 1 additional active-duty fleet reconnaissance squadron operates the EP-3 Ares Signals Intelligence variant at Naval Air Station, Whidbey Island, Washington. In January 2011, the U.S. Navy revealed that P-3s have been used to hunt down third-generation Narco submarines. This is significant because as recently as 2009, fully submersible submarines have been used in smuggling operations. As of November 2013, the U.S. Navy began phasing out P-3 in favor of the newer and more advanced Boeing P-8 Poseidon. In May of 2020, Patrol Squadron 40 completed the transition to the P-8, marking the retirement of the P-3C from U.S. Navy active duty service. The last of the active duty P-3Cs, aircraft 162776, was also delivered to the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, Florida. 2 Navy Reserve Squadrons and Air Test and Evaluation Squadron 30 continue to fly the P-3C, with final phase-out of the aircraft expected this year in 2023. Service history includes October 1962, when P-3As flew several blockade patrols in the vicinity of Cuba, Having only joined the operational fleet earlier that year, this event marked the first employment of the P-3 in a real-world heightened threat situation. Beginning in 1964, forward-deployed P-3s began flying various missions under Operation Market Time from bases in the Philippines and Vietnam. The primary focus of these coastal patrols was to stem the supply of materials to the Viet Cong by sea, although several of these missions also became overland feed dry sorties. During one such mission, a small-caliber artillery shell passed through a P-3 without rendering it mission incapable. The only confirmed combat loss of a P-3 also occurred during Operation Market Time. In April 1968, a U.S. Navy P-3B of VP-26 was downed by anti-aircraft fire in the Gulf of Thailand, with the loss of the entire crew. 2 months earlier, in February 1968, another one of VP-26's P-3Bs was operating in the same vicinity when it crashed, with the loss of the entire crew. Originally attributed to a low-altitude mishap, later conjecture is that this aircraft may have also fallen victim to anti-aircraft artillery fire from the same source as the April incident. On the 2nd of August 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait and was poised to strike Saudi Arabia. Within 48 hours of the initial invasion, U.S. Navy P-3Cs were among the first American forces to arrive in the area. One was a modified platform with a prototype over-the-horizon targeting system package known as Outlaw Hunter. It had been undergoing trials in the Pacific after being developed by Tiburon Systems Incorporated for NAVAIR's DMA-290 program office. Within hours of the coalition air campaign's start, Outlaw Hunter detected a large number of Iraqi patrol boats and naval vessels attempting to move from Basra and Qasr to Iranian waters. Outlaw Hunter vectored in strike elements which attacked the flotilla near Bubiyan Island, destroying 11 vessels and damaging scores more. During Desert Shield, a P-3 using infrared imaging detected a ship with Iraqi markings beneath freshly painted bogus Egyptian markings, trying to avoid detection. Several days before the 7th January 1991 commencement of Operation Desert Storm, a P-3C equipped with an APS-137 inverse synthetic aperture radar conducted coastal surveillance along Iraq and Kuwait to provide pre-strike reconnaissance on enemy military installations. A total of 55 of the 108 Iraqi vessels destroyed during the conflict were targeted by P-3Cs. The P-3's mission expanded in the late 1990s and early 2000s to include battlespace surveillance both at sea and over land. The long range and long loiter time of the P-3 proved to be an invaluable asset during Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, being able to instantaneously provide the gathered battlespace information to ground troops, particularly the U.S. Marines. Although the P-3 is a maritime patrol aircraft, armament and sensor upgrades in the Anti-Surface Warfare Improvement Program have made it suitable for sustained combat air support over land. In what became known as the Decade in the Desert, Navy P-3Cs patrolled combat zones in the Middle East and Southwest Asia. From the start of the war in Afghanistan, U.S. Navy P-3s operated from Kandahar in that role. Royal Australian Air Force AP-3Cs operated out of Minhad Air Base in the UAE from 2003 until their withdrawal in November 2012. Between 2008 and 2012, AP-3Cs conducted overland intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance tasks in support of coalition troops across Afghanistan. The United States Geological Survey used the Orion to survey parts of southern and eastern Afghanistan for lithium, copper, and other mineral deposits. Several U.S. Navy P-3Cs and 2 Canadian CP-140 Auroras, a variant of the Orion, participated in maritime surveillance missions over Libyan waters in the framework of enforcement of the 2011 no-fly zone over Libya. The U.S. Navy P-3C supporting Operation Odyssey Dawn engaged the Libyan Coast Guard vessel Victoria on the 28th of March 2011 after the vessel and 8 smaller craft fired on merchant ships in the port of Misrata, Libya. Orion fired AGM-65 Maverick missiles on Victoria, which was subsequently beached. Lockheed produced the P-3F variant of the P-3 Orion for Iran. 6 examples were delivered to the former Imperial Iranian Air Force in 1975 and 1976. Following the Iranian Revolution in 1979, the Orions continued in service after the IIAF was renamed the Islamic Republic of Iran Air Force. They were used in the tanker war phase of the Iran-Iraq War. A total of 4 P-3Fs remain in service. Three P-3C Orions delivered to the Pakistan Navy in 1996 and 1997 were operated extensively during the cargo conflict. After the crash of one with the loss of an entire crew, the type was grounded. Nonetheless, the aircraft were maintained in an armed state and airworthy condition throughout the escalation period of 2001 and 2002. During 2007, they were used by the Navy to conduct signals, intelligence, airborne and bombing operations in a SWAT offensive and Operation Ra in Najaf. Precision and strategic bombing missions were carried out by the P-3Cs. Intelligent management operations were also conducted against Taliban and Al-Qaeda operatives. On the 22nd of May 2011, 2 out of the 4 Pakistani P-3Cs were destroyed in an attack on PNS Mehran, a Pakistani naval station in Karachi. In June 2011, the U.S. agreed to replace the destroyed aircraft with 2 new ones. In February 2012, the U.S. delivered 2 additional P-3Cs to the Pakistan Navy. On the 18th of November 2016, during tensions with India, the Pakistan Navy dispatched various ASW units, including P-3Cs, in response to reports of an Indian Navy submarine that was allegedly loitering in close proximity to the southern territorial waters of Pakistan in the Arabian Sea. This submarine was swiftly intercepted by the Navy Orions and forced away from the territorial boundaries. In March of 2019, a P-3C from the Pakistan Naval Air Arm intercepted an Indian submarine attempting to enter Pakistani waters at night. In October 2021, Pakistani Orions again intercepted an Indian Kalvari-class submarine and blocked it off from entering Pakistani waters at the Arabian Sea. The Spanish Air Force developed P-3s to assist the deployed P-3s to assist the international effort against piracy in Somalia. On the 29th of October 2008, the Spanish P-3 patrolling Somalia's coast reacted to a distress call from an oil tanker in the Gulf of Aden. It overflew the pirate vessels 3 times, dropping a smoke bomb on each pass as they attempted to board the tanker. After the 3rd pass, the pirates broke off their attack. On the 29th of March 2009, the same P-3 pursued assailants of the German Navy tanker Spessart A-1442, resulting in the pirates' capture. In April of 2011, the Portuguese Air Force also contributed to Operation Ocean Shield by sending a P-3C which had early success when on its 5th mission, detected a pirate whaler with 2 attack skiffs. Since 2009, the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force has deployed P-3s to Djibouti for anti-piracy patrol. From 2011, from its own base. The German Navy has also periodically contributed a P-3 to address the piracy problem. Alright, that was a sharper turn than I wanted to do. But, there we go. We should be able to level out there. And it looks like our speed is acceptable. And if we zoom out on our air-ground radar, we actually do not see the submarine yet, but that's fine. We will find it. Actually, how much distance is that? About 75 nautical miles, so leaving it 100 is probably going to be our best bet there. Several P-3s have been N-registered and are operated by civilian agencies. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection has several P-3A and P-3B aircraft that are used for aircraft intercept and maritime patrol. NOAA operates 2 WP-3D variants specifically modified for hurricane research. One P-3 N426NA is used by NASA as an Earth science research platform primarily for the NASA Science Mission Directorate's Airborne Science Program. It is based at Goddard Space Flight Center's Wallops Flight Facility, Virginia. Aero Union Incorporated operated 8 second-hand P-3As configured as air tankers, which were leased to the U.S. Forest Service, the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, and other agencies for firefighting use. Several of these aircraft were involved in the U.S. Forest Service air tanker scandal, but have not been involved in any catastrophic aircraft mishaps. Aero Union has since gone bankrupt, and their P-3s have been put up for auction. Notable variants of the P-3 Oh man, there's a whole nother page for P3 Orion variants. Let's see here. Oh yeah, we're not going through every single one. But I'll go through some of them. Alright, so the P3A was the original production version, and 157 were built. And there we go, we have our target on radar. Oscar-class subs slowly moving across the waters. And let's plot an intercept course so we can give them the good old American flyby of freedom. There's the EP-3A, which was 7 aircraft modified for electronic reconnaissance testing. Yeah, it's really 38 were reconfigured as utility transports with all the ASW gear removed, designated UP-3A, and 3 WP-3A and 2 P-3A aircraft were converted into VIP and staff transports under the designation VP-3A, and 4 were converted for weather reconnaissance to WP-3A. The P-3B was the second main production version, using the T-56A-14 engines in lieu of the T-56A-10W engines on the P-3A. The EP-3B was a series of 3 P-3As obtained by the Central Intelligence Agency from the United States Navy under Project ST-SPIN in May 1963 as the replacement aircraft for the CIA's own covert operations fleet of RB-69As and P-2V-7Us. They were simply known as Black 3 P-3As under Project Axial, officially transferred from the USN to the CIA on June and July of 1964. LTV Aerosystems converted the 3 aircraft to be both ELINT and common platforms. The first arrived in Taiwan and was officially transferred to the Republic of China Air Force Top Secret Black Bat Squadron on the 22nd of June 1966. Armed with Sidewinder missiles for self-defense, the 3 Black P-3As flew peripheral missions along the China coast to collect SIGINT and air samples. When the project was terminated in January 1967, they were flown to NAS Alameda, California for long-term storage. 2 of the 3 aircraft were converted as the only EP-3B examples by Lockheed at Burbank in September 1967, while the 3rd aircraft was converted by Lockheed from 1969 to 1970 to serve as a development aircraft for various electronic programs. P-3C is the 3rd main production version and the definitive version. These include T-56A-14 engines, a new ASW suite and mission computer with a revised internal layout. Externally, the P-3C featured an electrically operated entry ladder, small fin-top antenna, externally loaded belly sonobuoy chutes, and 3 small windows on the aft right side. Initial production aircraft had a nose camera located on the lower part of the radome. Later production aircraft had a retractable IRDS turret in lieu of the nose camera. Beginning in the early 1980s, existing camera-equipped noses were retrofitted with the IRDS turrets. Early models were also known as P-3C baseline or non-update aircraft. All aircraft were later retrofitted with dual LTN-72 inertial navigation systems. P-3C Update 1 had new and improved avionics with a total of 31 built. P-3C Update 2 included the Infrared Detection System, or IRDS, the Sonobuoy Reference System, SRS, and the ability to carry the AGM-84 Harpoon 80 ship missile, and a total of 44 were built. P-3C Update 2.5 included 24 aircraft with more reliable LTN-72 inertial navigation system equipment and enhanced communications equipment. P-3C Update 3 includes 50 new build aircraft incorporating the systems of Update 2 and 2.5 with a new acoustic processor, sonobuoy receiver, plasma displays, Omega navigation, and improved auxiliary power unit. P-3C Sensor Update System, or SUDS, was a retrofit of select NUD, UDI, UD2, Update 1, Update 2, and Update 3 aircraft to the Update 3 acoustic processor and other avionics standards. The NUD and Update 1 aircraft modified under SUDS were not retrofitted with the SRS. P-3C Update 4. P-3C with Boeing Update 4 avionics suite. Update 4 was intended to be the common avionics suite for the P-3C aircraft in its planned replacement, the Lockheed P-7, which never made it to production. One P-3C was converted to the Update 4 interior, and that aircraft was later stripped and turned into a special mission aircraft. P-3C AIP, or Anti-Surface Warfare Improvement Program, was used the baseline of Update 3, with interior modifications to add the ASQ-222 mission computer, the ASQ-78AB acoustic system, and APS-137 ISAR radar. The Mega Navigation System was replaced with GPS and Tattle-J Link 16 data link system. The P-3C UIP, or Upgrade Improvement Program, was P-3C with interior modification to add the ASQ-222, the ASQ-78AB acoustic system, and the APS-137 radar. I think that was just for the Royal Norwegian Air Force. The P-3C Update 3 Block Modification Program was 25 aircraft with interior modification to convert selected aircraft to the P-3C AIP update baseline. P-3C CDU, or Counter Drug Update, include aircraft modified with an AN APG-66 radar and an AN AVX-1 electro-optical sensor for counter-drug operations in support of the U.S. Coast Guard. Then you have the EP-3 ELINT aircraft for the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, which is not to be confused with the EP-3E Ares, EP-3E Ares 2, or EP-3J operated by the USN. The MP-3D is a single P-3C converted into a test bed for the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory, that was the MP-3C. The MP-3D is 2 additional P-3As that were converted for the Pacific Missile Test Center for instrumentation analysis. And they had an extended area test system radar incorporated into the vertical stabilizer. And let's see. RP-3D, 1 P-3C modified on the production line to optimize MAD capabilities. The aircraft did extensive geomagnetic surveys under Project Magnet. In 1973, the RP-3D was instrumental in pinpointing the wreckage of the Civil War ironclad USS Monitor. The WP-3D Orion is a production variant of the P-3 Orion used by the Aircraft Operations Center Division of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration at Lakeland Linder International Airport in Florida. Only 2 of these aircraft exist, each incorporating numerous features for the role of collecting weather information. During hurricane season, the WP-3Ds are deployed for duty as hurricane hunters. 10 P-3A and 2 EP-3B aircraft were converted into the EP-3E Ares 2, and then 8 U.S. Navy EP-3E aircraft are to be converted by L3 Communications Integrated System into Surge Configuration Signals Intelligence aircraft. This will expand their multi-source intelligence capacity to meet the increased intelligence demands of the surge and counterterrorism operations. Alright, and I'm not going to get into the gazillion local variants for every export operator of the P3. Those are the big hitters, I think. Yeah, EP-3E Ares 2, 12 P-3C converted into ELINT. AP-3C is Royal Australian Air Force P-3C aircraft. CP-140M Aurora is the Canadian variant. CP-148 Arcturus is 3 Canadian variant without ASW equipment for crew training. The P-7 was a proposed new build improved variant of the P-3 Orion. That was part of that first maritime replacement competition that was eventually canceled. Alright, let's get nice and low down here. There we go. The Orion 21 was another proposed new build and improved variant that competed in the second competition that lost to the P-8 Poseidon and P-3K2, which is Royal New Zealand Air Force variant. And again, there's more local indigenous variants, but I don't want to read 20 entries of, oh, this is the local P-3C Update 1 baseline for country A, which is exactly the same except for this one thing. There we go. Whee! Alright. So we let them know they're being watched, so now we can actually, let's do one more flyby, then we'll return to base. And some of the latest updates include glass instrumentation and navigation computer automation for the cockpit. Operators of the P3 include Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Chile, Canada, Germany, Greece, Iran, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, Pakistan, Portugal, South Korea, Taiwan, and the United States. Foreign military operators include the Netherlands, Spain, and Thailand. Civilian operators include Buffalo Airways, NOAA, NASA in the U.S., Department of Homeland Security, Bureau of Customs and Border Protection, Offensive Air Marine, which at that point it's kind of paramilitary, I think. They include some aircraft, MHC Rockland Services, and airstrike firefighters. Okay, my turn was way too long. Alright, we're gonna max out the throttle here and fly this aircraft like it's not supposed to be flown. Former civilian operators include Aero Union until their bankruptcy. Alright, so then we get into specifications. So the P-3 Orion has, well, I'll read them after I do this flyby. Alright, I think we're going to be in a good position now for a really good flyby. Alright, let's get right on the deck with them. Let them know we could drop a torpedo in their path if we so choose. There we go. That's right, we got our eye on you. Oh, that's cool. You can kind of see the missile hatches on the bow there. At least I think that's what they're supposed to be. Alright, with that, let us take off and just some, I don't want to go to that one. Let's go to the one on the island. What's that? That is the Oscar. He's behind us and we still see him on our radar. That's kind of cool. Alright. Alright, let's throttle down before we have an accident. Just heading back to land now, so No reason to hurry too much. Damn it. So P-3C Orion has a crew of 11, a length of 116 feet 10 inches, a wingspan of 99 feet 8 inches, a height of 33 feet 8.5 inches, wing area of 1,300 square feet, empty weight of 61,491 pounds, a zero fuel weight of 77,200 pounds, max takeoff weight of 135,000 pounds, although it can even go up to 142,000 pounds in certain situations. Maximum landing weight is 103,880 pounds. Fuel capacity is 9,200 US gallons, usable fuel in 5 wing and fuselage tanks. 62,500 pounds max fuel weight, 111 US gallons usable oil in 4 tanks. Power plant includes 4 Allison T56A14 turboprop engines, which provide 4,910 shaft horsepower each, or about 3,650 kilowatts. Propellers include the 4-bladed Hamilton Standard 54H6077, 13 feet 6 inch diameter, constant speed, fully feathering, reversible propellers. Maximum performance is 411 knots at 15,000 feet and 105,000 pounds. Cruise speed is 328 knots at 25,000 feet and 110,000 pounds. Patrol speed is 206 knots at 1,500 feet and 110,000 pounds. Stall speed is 133 knots with flaps up, or 112 knots flaps down. Combat range is 1,345 nautical miles, including 3 hours on station at 1,500 feet. Ferry range is 4,830 nautical miles, and endurance is 17 hours 12 minutes at 15,000 feet on 2 engines, or 12 hours 20 minutes at 15,000 feet on 4 engines. Service ceiling is 28,300 feet with 1 engine inoperative. Rate of climb is 1,950 feet per minute. Climb to altitude of 25,000 feet is 30 minutes. But yeah, no. I disagree with that, because it's basically 2,000 feet per minute, right? So that should be 12 minutes, but the rate of climb must decrease as you get off the ground. So wing loading 103.8 pounds per square foot. Power per mass is 0.1455 horsepower per pounds. Takeoff run is 4,240 feet. Armament includes 10 wing stations in total, 3 on each wing and 2 on each wing route, as well as 8 internal bomb bay stations with a capacity of 20,000 pounds, with provisions to carry combinations of Zuni rockets, Maverick missile, AGM-65 Mavericks, AGM-84 Harpoons, AGM-84 standoff land attack missiles, depth charges, the Mark 101 Lulu nuclear death bomb, Mark 20 Rockeyes, Mark 80 series bombs, B-57 nuclear bomb, however that capability was retired in 1993, the Mark 44, Mark 46, Mark 50, or Mark 54, or MU-90 impact torpedoes, the Mark 25, Mark 39, Mark 55, Mark 56, Mark 60 Captor, or the Mark 65, Mark 62, or Mark 63 Quick Strike naval mines, the Stonefish naval mine in Australian service, as well as a variety of active and passive sonobuoys. Avionics include the Raytheon AN/APS-115 maritime surveillance radar and the AN/APS-137 DV5 inverse synthetic aperture search radar. IFS systems include the APX-72, APX-76, APX-118/123 interrogation friend full unit. For electro-optical and infrared reconnaissance, it includes the ASX-4 Advanced Imaging Multispectral Sensor, as well as the ASX-6 Multimode Imaging System. For electronic surveillance measures, it includes the ALR-66 Radar Warning Receiver, the ALR-95V2 Specific Emitter Identification Threat Warning System. In addition, it also has the Hazeltine Corporation and ARR-78V sonobuoy receiving system. Fighting Electronics Incorporated AN/ARR 72 sonobuoy receiver, the IBM Proteus UYS-1 acoustic processor, EAQA-7 directional acoustic frequency analysis and recording sonobuoy indicators, the AQH-4V sonar tape recorder, the ASQ-81 magnetic anomaly detector, the ASA-65 magnetic compensator, and the Lockheed Martin AN/ALQ-78B electronic surveillance receiver. Whew, that was a long one for I say non-combat aircraft, even though they are technically combat aircraft, although honestly, outside of war, they're mostly, they're really only meant for full-scale war. That's for the most part the only combat they'll see. Obviously, we had a few isolated examples here, but generally, people aren't sinking people's submarines outside of war. So, it's mostly a surveillance aircraft. Which isn't to diminish the P-3, it's just, or its operators, it's just, I was surprised it had such a history, because, I mean, there's obviously a lot of tracking of people's submarines outside of war, because we want to know, hey, if shit starts, where are the Soviet submarines? We want to be able to sink them right at the outset. But, oh yeah, that was a long article, and now we're just going to see how she handles unlanding approach. We should have a pretty low approach speed, so probably nothing to write home about. Just a large, slow, steady aircraft like many of the transports we've reviewed. Alright, so let's get the flaps down. We'll switch to navigation systems, or the navigational mode of our HUD. And we're going to land on the big runway. I think they want us to line up on the shorter runway, but we're going to land on the big one. Because we'll probably have a long landing run. I think it's supposed to be for takeoff, given the way it's
clear to land.
Lined up, but all right, reduce throttle some more. All right, increase throttle. Increase throttle more.
Wind at 7 knots.
There we go. Let's come in a little to the left. Increase throttle to maintain ground separation. One last boost as we come down. A little early, but a successful landing nonetheless. Hey guys, how's it going? Alright, so we're just going to take advantage of that speed to immediately taxi, even though normally we'd have to come to a full stop. Okay, so the altimeter must be above surface level, because we're on the ground and it reads 31 feet, so glad we cleared that up. As I know, what was it? Was it just last time that I was questioning the, whether it was truly a radar, or whether it was set to above surface or above sea level? Alright, so we're just going to park outside that hardened aircraft shelter. Whew. Was not expecting, There we go. And we are now fully parked at the airfield, ready for debrief. So let's head to debriefing. And of course, our mission was successful. So that will conclude today's aircraft showcase. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for next time. And stay safe out there, and we'll see you then.